From BQE Restaurant and Lounge in the heart of Atlanta's historic Martin Luther King District, it's Newsmakers Live, bringing you the issues, politics, and perspective of the Atlanta community. Now in its 10th season, here is tonight's moderator and your host, 8-time Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist, Mr. Maynard Eaton.
Thank you, Jim, and welcome to everyone out there. This is a special night. We have two people one of whom will lead the Fulton County Commission for the next 4 to perhaps 8 years. To my right is former State Representative Keisha Shawn Waits, and to her right is veteran political former Fulton County Commission Chairman. No, he's running for Fulton County Commission. Former Fulton County Commissioner and former Atlanta City Council President Rob Pitts. The two of you are in a runoff for the Fulton County Chairmanship. Very important position. Rob, you got 38% of the vote. Keisha, 34%. Rob, were you surprised? Many people thought you'd run away with it. Yes.
No, I was not surprised. I've been in a lot of races. Until the votes are counted, you never know what the outcome is going to be.
Keisha, were you surprised that you got that close and were in the runoff? But was this competitive all along, or did a certain voting bloc step in and say, we want you?
Well, I think the numbers are reflective of the constituency here in Fulton County, that individuals are hungry for change. And when you combine the votes between Mr. Sterling and myself, I think it's reflective of the need for that change.
What do you mean by that?
I think that when you come the overall arching numbers, I think that speaks to the fact that Fulton County is ready for something different.
Rob, you have, to many people, at least somebody's been around as long as I have covering politics, the name recognition. Was that the key factor that got you the number one spot in the runoff, or was it what you're proposing? I
think it's my plan for the county, moving the county forward. You know that now that the county has been fully municipalized, there are 15 cities in Fulton County government will change by virtue of that. We're no longer providing municipal or city-like services. What do I mean by city-like services? We're no longer providing fire, we're no longer providing police, parks and recreation, zoning. Those types of services are now being provided, or going to be provided totally by the new city of South Fulton. So when the voters in South Fulton made a decision last year to become a city like the cities up north and Chattahoochee Hills had done, that means that if you live in Fulton County now, you live in one of the 15 cities that make up Fulton County. City of Atlanta being the largest, population probably 515,000, the smallest being, and I ask this question everywhere I go, nobody knows the answer, but so rather than bore you with it, I'll just tell you, it's Mountain Park. You ever heard of Mountain Park?
No, I haven't been there, sir.
It's a city near Roswell with a population of about 500. Its own mayor, city council, police chief, fire chief. So, again, as a result of that vote, everybody in Fulton County now lives in a city except for there's about 7.5 acres in South Fulton County that is still unincorporated, known as the Fulton Industrial Boulevard.
And that leads to the question I've heard people ask me.
Fulton Industrial District, rather.
People ask me, why do we need Fulton County? If you're not longer providing services.
Well, let me answer that. That's a great question, because the state constitution dictates what Fulton County government is responsible for. And there are 4+. Number one, criminal justice system, sheriff, courts, judges, all of that comes under Fulton County. Specific responsibility. Number two, health and human services, anything dealing with senior services and Grady Hospital. Animal control, although the state constitution only deals with rabies control for the county, but through the years, the county has taken on anything dealing with animal control, and the countywide library system. Two others that are very, very important. County conducts elections and also appraises property and collects taxes. So that's what Fulton County government.
That's where I want to go.
For. Okay.
Is this a toothless tiger, Fulton County, or Keisha, are we under scrutiny because we failed to collect taxes appropriately? The teachers were in uproar over the fact that we haven't collected taxes. Is that their main problem, their main duty now, being a prudent tax collector?
Well, I think Mr. Pitts outlined well the constitutional requirements that we are to provide as a county. And yes, we clearly have some challenges. I've spoken to the need that we revise the process and that, in fact, it's actually archaic. But I do see a new opportunity for Fulton County to reinvent itself. I think we cannot ignore the fact that you have 15 cities. It screams and echoes of people's dissatisfaction with the previous government. It speaks and screams to the fact that people want something very different and want to be in control of their own individual destinies at the local level.
So you're saying that the reason everybody wanted to become a city is because they didn't like Fulton County government?
I think there was a feeling that at that level, Fulton County was simply too large to address the individual needs of those specific communities, which are very different. The needs in Alpharetta are certainly very different from the needs in South Fulton. Right now, we're scrambling to enlarge our tax base. Fulton Industrial will be a large part of that quarter. And so my thought process is that we have an opportunity, given that we are the largest county in the state of Georgia, to reinvent ourselves and to become a major player in the region. And my thought process is that we can lead the conversation surrounding expansion of regionalized transportation, potentially even MARTA.
Well,
yeah, let me follow up on that. Fulton County is the largest of the 159 counties in the state of Georgia, but I have a totally different view. I think Fulton County is a good government, and evidence of that is the fact that companies, national and international companies, are moving here in droves. People, young and old, black and white, rich and poor, they're moving to where? To Atlanta, Georgia, and Fulton County and the state of Georgia. We're growing. We're in the top 10 now. So of the 3,000 plus counties in the United States of America, Fulton County government, Fulton County, Georgia, is in the top tier. So I see us. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Can we improve? Yes, we can. Will we improve? Yes, we will.
What about the tax controversy? Do you think John Eves made the right move?
No, I do not. But he didn't make it. It was a move which I predicted at the time. It was a knee-jerk reaction to a situation that occurred. What occurred? When the tax bills went out, people saw huge increases. Some saw huge increases. Some saw decreases. Let me back up. In Fulton County, there's residential property and commercial property. There are 300,000+ residential properties within Fulton County. Did they get everyone right? Absolutely not. But the ones that they did not get right, people had an opportunity to appeal, and the appraisers were willing to sit down and talk with them.
But teachers are up in arms.
Well, that's teachers are up in arms, and they should have been. But that's not that. Your question, though, dealt with did the county get it right?
Yes, sir.
And I'm suggesting to you that they got most of it right. What they got wrong, they were going to correct. Now, going forward, how do I plan to fix that process? Here's what I'm proposing.
Would you fire Ferdinand?
Ferdinand doesn't appraise property. Ferdinand collects the taxes. He'll tell you quickly he's not a social worker. His job is to collect
Ruthlessly.
taxes. Well, not really. He does his job. In fact, I'll give you an example.
Would you fire him? Would you fire him?
No. It's not a question of firing him. You can't fire him. I
didn't know that. Excuse me.
Yeah, he's elected. He used to be, but you remember our good friend, mutual friend Doug Dean got upset and passed legislation to make the position elected. And since that time, Mr. Ferdinand, or Dr. Ferdinand, has been elected by a huge margin.
But he's still very criticized.
Well, he may be criticized, but he's doing his job. He'll tell you quickly, he's not a social worker. And I'll give you an example of how good he is. When I chaired the Finance Committee, the many years that I did at Fulton County, we talked about bringing that whole process inside. And we did. Before doing that, our tax collections rates were in the 95, 97, 98% rate. When you listen to me, when we let him go and started doing it in-house, it dropped to around 60%. So it didn't take us long to realize what a mistake that we had made and what a good job Dr. Ferdinand was doing. And he still is doing a good job. And he will tell you quickly, he does not put seniors out of their homes, and he does not.
Do you have the same opinion? Is a tax collection system, is the tax issue here one that would you agree with Mr. Eves?
Well, I want to go backwards a little bit. I want to speak to the notion that Fulton County is operating efficiently and perfectly, and I think that's ridiculous. I think that when you poll the lion's share of Fulton County homeowners and small business owners, there is a great deal of disgust with respect to the process. When you look at the number of businesses and corporations who have went elsewhere, given that we have not addressed our public safety issues, that we do have major transportation issues, others are looking at other cities and going elsewhere. So yes, Fulton County is an ideal place to live. It's full of diversity. The city of Atlanta is an amazing place. However, we do have our challenges.
One of the challenges was expressed on WAOK radio tonight about South Fulton and its rampant crime problem. Does that come under your jurisdiction as perhaps the chairwoman of Fulton County?
Well, certainly there's an opportunity for collaboration and partnerships, and that's one of the things that I talked about was the opportunity to work with our surrounding partners to address those challenges. We can't operate anymore in silos, as I believe we have done for some time. So it is my role as the next chair to be a consensus builder to address some of those challenges, is to figure out how we can utilize our resources best to address those issues.
Well, let me, on that point, though, you talk about crime in the new city of South Fulton. As I said earlier, the cities now handle fire and police.
Yes.
Still, though, at this point, police services are provided to the new city of Fulton County, yes, still by Fulton County.
Yes, sir.
But that's only going to last for another 6 or 7 months. And at that point, then the whole police effort will transfer over to the new city of South Fulton. But for now, it's Fulton County's job to police by contract, to police the unincorporated area or the new city.
Why do you want to be chairman, sir? I mean, you've served locally and on a commission. Why now?
Because I saw a need and still see a need. If you look at what's going to happen at the city of Atlanta, you're going to have a brand new mayor, no experience. You're going to have a brand new city council president, no experience. You're going to have a city council, half of the members brand new, and probably 2 or 3 others may be new. No experience, and there's some question marks about some who may be returning. So I saw a vacuum. Fulton County is really the big dog in this whole area. Historically, it's been the city of Atlanta because it's the capital city and it's the mayor who gets the attention.
Right, the mayor gets the attention.
Yeah, but Fulton, strike that. City of Atlanta has a population of about 515,000. Fulton County is 1 million plus. The chairman of the Fulton County Commission is the top dog. Constitutionally, but we've not.
Seen Reed beat up John Eves.
Well, that's between the two of them. But we've not had a strong chairman in Fulton County government since the days of Michael Lomax. Whether you like Michael Lomax or you dislike Michael Lomax ran the county, and Maynard Jackson was the mayor at the time. You'll recall some of the conflicts that they had. But the power is really with Fulton County and not the city of Atlanta.
You're suggesting it's a new day, a new time, and in a new way?
Well, I want to go back again and make another correction. The notion that the new mayor of South Fulton is brand new, I mean, I think the former Commissioner Edwards served for over a decade on the county commission, in fact, was your colleague. So I dispute that piece. And also, in terms of the presidential race, Councilwoman Felicia Moore, as well as Alex Wong, have also served for over a decade. So the notion that they're somehow new to the process, I dispute that. But yes, I offer...
You would be new?
Well, I've served for 6 years in the Georgia General Assembly. I would put my 6-year legislative track record up against 4 decades of service, and I believe it runs circles and it speaks volume.
What I said was, unless you didn't hear me, I was speaking of the city of Atlanta and the fact that there would be a new mayor in the city of Atlanta, a new city council president, and half of the city council of Atlanta being new, not the new city of South Fulton County. There, my former colleague and dear friend, Mayor Edwards now, he has political experience, but his council members do not. And I think that's a reason for some of the growing pains that they're having right now. Good people and will grow into the jobs. Let me tell you something. I don't care how bright you are. It takes a term or two to really understand what happens in local government.
Do you miss local government? Do you miss it?
This is still local government. It's just
but you've not been in office. Do you miss it? Is that why you want?
When you say, do I miss local government?
You miss being an elected official.
I've only been out 2 years. I don't miss it. I still get the calls that I got there. Most folks still believe I'm in office. I mean, I still get calls. In fact, every candidate for mayor, every candidate for president and council, most of those running for city council call me to ask my advice and counsel. How's this work? Because you have to, that's where institutional knowledge and experience come into play. Experience matters.
I'd like to go back and speak to the challenges that we're having.
Do you think experience matters? Is that a weakness for you?
Well, absolutely, I think it matters. But I think there's a fundamental difference in being a seat warmer and being present and actually getting things done. But I want to go back to a statement that was made regarding the city of South Fulton in terms of growing pains. We may recall Sandy Springs went through these very same challenges. Johns Creek went through the same exact challenges. So the notion that somehow South Fulton is going to be any different, I think, is ridiculous. Nonetheless, people have to work together. And again, that's one of the reasons why I ran for chair of Fulton County, is because I believe that for some time we have operated in silos. There's been this notion of North Fulton and South Fulton, and then there is the city of Atlanta. So it is my hope, given that I am the only one running in this race that has those state, regional relationships to get things done. I've served at a bipartisan relationship in terms of getting things done at the Capitol for the last 6 years, and I'm very proud of that legislative track record.
Well, let me clarify something else. Now, let's be real clear about why the northern cities wanted to become cities. It wasn't because Fulton County government was dysfunctional. That was a story and a function of the media. What happened, they wanted to recreate Milton County to get away from us. That was the fact. It
was racial, wasn't it?
Absolutely, and it still is. There are still moves right now. That's not dead. It may be on the back burner for now, but the idea of recreating Milton County is still there. It wasn't that Fulton County was doing anything wrong or bad. As I said earlier, we're 1 million plus people. Do we get everything right? Absolutely not. But we're making progress, and we'll continue to improve.
But let's talk about this racial divide, north and south. There's north and south in the city, white,
East
black.
and west.
North and south in the county. Are we racially divided? Are we racially?
Let me tell you something. I say this all the time. And if this audience were lily white, there's not a major decision made in Atlanta and Fulton County and the state of Georgia that does not have a racial component, period.
Frankly, I would agree with my colleague in terms of the conversation in terms of the expansion of MARTA. Certainly, that's a racial conversation. But I also think it's important that when you are running for office, that you lead by example. I think to have one conversation on the north side of town and another conversation on the south side of town is exactly what we don't need. And I think that pours into that whole piece in terms of that racial dynamic. When I am on the north side of town, it's the exact same conversation. I sat in a meeting with Fulton County Dems and made a statement that I will not be the fourth vote for the south side of town, because that is not what we need. But what I will do is work to ensure equity and fairness, which is something that the south side of town feels has not happened under the previous administration.
Are you suggesting
just the opposite has happened? Because, see, people up north have felt factually and statistically that they've been subsidizing the south side, which is just the opposite. The south side has always subsidized the north side. And people say, well, we're tired of subsidizing the south side, an unincorporated city. Well, the truth of the matter, this is where knowledge and experience comes into play. The people in unincorporated South Fulton County, they paid for every service that they got. So when people say, well, now that the new city is, now that there's a new city of South Fulton, our taxes are going to go down because we're no longer providing. That's not true. We've not been paying for services in South Fulton County at all. They've been paying their own way, period.
Will race determine the outcome of this race?
I don't think so. I think that when you look at the numbers, in fact, you took a look at them tonight in terms of analyzing them, I actually performed extremely well on the north side of town as well as the south side of town. So I think people are hungry for a new message. I think they're interested in a fresh perspective. I think the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing. And the reality is this. Mr. Pitts has served on the Fulton County Commission, and so my question tonight is this. What happens in 2017 that has not happened from 2003 to 2014? What is different?
We're going to continue to build upon the great county that we have developed. Well, again, I said there are 3,000 plus counties in the United States of America. Fulton County, Georgia is in that top percentile, and we will continue. People are flocking here. Corporations why do you think Amazon would even be considering Atlanta, Georgia, and Fulton County? One of the main things that if you understand business and economics, one of the main things that corporations look at is the local government. And you think all of these, the NCRs and Mercedes-Benz and Porsche and all these companies that are moving here would be coming here if we were dysfunctional as the media likes to portray? You think the CDC and Emory University would want to become leave DeKalb County, come to Atlanta and Fulton County if we were so bad? I see us with a great future, and listen, I've really had a great deal to do with this. I've had the honor and privilege of working side by side and along with Maynard Jackson, wrote a lot of the legislation that's on the books. Had the privilege and honor of working side by side with Ambassador Andrew Young. Had the privilege of working with Congressman John Lewis, working side by side. And we have done a lot of great things for this county and this state. Absolutely. For this county and this city and this state.
That you will know. Maybe it's time for a change. They're saying in the Atlanta mayor's race. I mean, is that what you're fighting against?
I'm not fighting against anything. My message is the same. I want to fix the tax appraisal system. I want to continue to provide health and human services, including money for Grady Hospital. I want to complete our library facility master plan and, of course, deal with the transportation issue. My role as chairman will be to ensure and to make sure that the money that the voters approved and the projects that the voters approved are completed and completed in a timely manner. Now, listen, one other thing about the role of chairman. You got to understand what the role is. There's 7 members of the Fulton County Commission. 6 are elected from districts. The chairman is elected citywide. Each of the 7 has 1 vote. What's the difference? The chairman is charged with presiding over the meetings of the board. Who has the experience? What differentiates me? I presided over an 18-member, very cantankerous body, by the way, at the time, 18-member body, Robert's Rules of Order, considered to be an expert. I never, ever had one ruling that I made overturned. That's where experience comes in.
Let me ask you a question. You look at the city council president's race, the LBGT community was a factor. In the mayor's race, the LBGT community was a factor. Is it a factor in your being in this runoff as well? And will that be a factor in this runoff election?
I think Fulton County is very diverse. So certainly the voting blocks of seniors, African-American women, the women vote, as well as the LGBT vote will be a tremendous factor. And I think that showed as well as in the numbers. But I'd like to just take a moment to go back to the conversation. The notion that Fulton County does not have challenges. You just made a statement right there regarding South Fulton having major public safety challenges. I guarantee you, if you were to speak to the residents and the homeowners in those corridors, they would fundamentally disagree with the fact that we don't have issues. We have one of the largest AIDS HIV rates in the country. In fact, some of our numbers here in 30318, as well as the downtown corridors, match that of African countries. And so the notion that we don't have issues and challenges in Fulton County, again, I think is fundamentally flawed. But I think it speaks to, again, a large disconnect, which is exactly why I'm running. I offer a different perspective. I offer the perspective of coming from the state legislature, where I've worked with individuals from a bipartisan perspective to get things done. And I think that's exactly what we need in 2017 to move us forward.
Well, your question dealt with the LGBTQ community and whether or not they would have any influence or had any influence. And I think so.
Since she's a member of that community, I didn't know if that was going to be an edge.
That's not relevant. That's not relevant at all. The fact that I don't even want to go there. That's not relevant.
Not relevant?
No, it's not relevant. I don't even want. That's not a relevant issue. She served in the legislature, and that's something that's personal to her and has no bearing on this race. People will look at her as a candidate for office, my opponent, nothing else. That's all. I asked people to compare her qualifications for this office, nothing else. Compare her qualifications against mine. Was I disappointed I didn't get the endorsement of Georgia Equality? Absolutely, because I have a A+ 100% voting record, but they saw otherwise, and that's understandable. I'm not angry. I'm just going to move forward.
But it did help to some degree with Kathy Woolard, and it did help to some degree with Alex Wan. And I'm asking,
but if you analyze it, and we'll get the demographics, I think, later on this week. But the reality of it, if you look at what we have so far by council districts within the city of Atlanta, blacks voted for black candidates, and the whites voted for white candidates. Period.
And who did the gay community vote for?
You got blacks who are gays, you got whites who are gays. So that's not the good news is we've come so far in this city, in this county. Can't talk about the state, but this city and this county, that's not an issue.
I'd like to speak to that. as your next chair, I will be a representative and a chair for every single community in Fulton County. That is African American, that is whites, that is gays, that is straights, as well as senior citizens. And I embrace the diversity that Fulton County offers.
Let me end this on a note. You called me today and said this race has gotten ugly, and you said you're frightened. Could you explain that? And on Sunday night, I'm glad that Mr. Pitts is here because there was a one-sided sort of thing. What's going on here?
Well, given that that matter is under investigation, I'm not really going to give a lot of details, but I can assure you, and that's why I found it interesting that he didn't feel the need to bring those different nuances up. But nonetheless, there has been a level of intimidation. I have been bullied. My campaign headquarters on election night, a vehicle was stolen. I've had my window broken out, as well as individuals who have harassed me at my personal home. And so I will offer you to speak with the authorities once that information and that investigation is complete. But for tonight, that is all I have to say about that.
Mr. Pitts, that's kind of...
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And there was someone sent a post, a Facebook description to me of some charges that have been made, and there was a notion of going to the FBI and the GBI and Channel 2, and I said a prayer in church Sunday. Please do that so I can take a lie detector test and have those who are accusing me of that take a lie detector test.
Both of you have been in a lot of campaigns.
What?
Both of you have been in a lot of campaigns. Has this gotten disturbing and ugly? I mean, what is?
Well, let me give you an example. And again, I won't get into that other matter because I'll let that play out with the law enforcement officials. But right after I qualified, I think it was September 18th in this particular race, I received a phone call from Mr. Gary Cox, who identified himself as a member of your campaign. And you may recall, Gary Cox is a convicted pedophile. But nonetheless, we had a conversation. And one of the things that he said to me was this: Keisha, I hope it's a rumor that you qualify for this seat, because I would certainly be disappointed. And I said, well, Mr. Cox, is true. I think this is an opportunity to move our county in another direction. He spoke to me not running. He spoke to Mr. Pitts mentoring me, which I found offensive because, I've known Mr. Pitts for 20 years, almost several decades, and that has never happened. But nonetheless, the notion that he's somehow unaware of the fact that individuals have operated on your behalf, I think that's a distortion, and I think that's a level of deception.
Let's end this on that.
No, you can't. I can't let that
That's
go.
it. I want you to end it on this.
What? Well, I'm on the ballot. She's on the ballot. None of my volunteers are on the ballot. And the person that she referenced was originally, there's a change here, that my campaign manager was, I don't have a campaign manager. I'm my campaign manager, always have been. So what this is about, she'll have to explain that. But I don't have a campaign manager, and the notion that there is someone that's doing something, I really want to get to the bottom of that. And that's why I welcome the FBI coming in, the GBI, the Ethics Commission, and anybody else. And let's come back on your show, and I will take a lie detector test right here and have anybody who's accusing me of driving around and breaking into cars. I don't even know how to break. Well, that's not true. I did break into cars, and maybe when I was in high school a little bit. But other than that.
Well, let's end this on a nice. What is this about? What is this race about? For you and them, what is this race about, and why should we vote for you?
Well, I think that what differentiates me from my opponent is the fact that I have the experience. I have the leadership skills, I have the image, I have the relationships, not only at the local level, but the state level, nationally, and even internationally. The question becomes, who can you trust? Whose record do you know? People know me, they know my record, they trust me. I have a vision. I've outlined that, what I plan to do. Number one, we're going to fix this property tax situation. We're going to make sure that the money and the projects that the voters approve from a transportation point of view are, in fact, implemented in an open, fair, and timely manner. We're going to continue to fund the social services at Grady Hospital. We're going to complete the library facility master plan. And we're going to build a new animal control center. That's what I plan to do over the next 4 years.
Representative Waits, you have the last word.
Absolutely. Again, I want to speak to this culture of violence against women. I have been marginalized and disrespected in this campaign. I stand for every single woman who has been dismissed, who has been disrespected, and who has been harassed. I stand for you. I offer a fresh perspective and new ideas. When you look at my legislative track record, I've named a number of times the pieces of legislation that I've offered statewide and passed bipartisan with Republican relationships as well as Democratic relationships. House Bill 54 guarantees tuition to the children of fallen heroes. The Capitol right now is handicap and wheelchair accessible because of the work that I've done. And so I think that when you put my legislative track record up against my opponents, again, it runs circles. Again, the definition, my friends, of insanity is to continue to do the same thing over and over and over again. There is a segment of the population who has felt left out of the conversation. I do not believe in leading from an ivory tower, but instead I am a consensus builder, and I am looking forward to hitting the streets, working with everyone from North Fulton to South Fulton, and bringing women into the conversation who have been dismissed and marginalized and locked out of the conversation.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have two clear choices for the new next chairperson of Fulton County. What a intense, robust, and riveting race. This has been Newsmakers. Now back to my partner, Jim Welcome.
All right, so what do we have here? Ladies and gentlemen, this has probably been the most exciting one of the season. We have an African-American man and an African-American woman, both dealing with issues that affect our community, a community which is widely African-American. We both see different perspectives. We both see different, they both have their own agenda, and both agendas seem sound for the community. May the best woman or man win. This has been Newsmakers.